One of the mainstream brands that's been doing more than any other to cater for the public appetite for the space, efficiency, stability and ride softness of the modern power cat is Prestige. They introduced their all-new M line of power cats with 3 models in it, the M48, the M7 and the M8, and we've come down to Monfalcone in Italy to take a look at this, the new evolved version of that M8, the Prestige M8 Evo. Now, the first thing I want to talk about in relation to this new M8 Evo is the styling. Yeah, we got a big juicy beam, about 29 feet there, huge on a 65 footer, 45% of the overall length. But the styling has been subtly reinterpreted, cleaned up a little. There's a nice stooping shear line forward, lovely long tinted windows in the hull. Nice bit of detailing too. You might almost say that it looks quite sexy from some angles, and for a big beamy power cat, that is quite a trick. And it's split, as you can see, in terms of the platforms, between a couple of fixed platforms outboard of a central high-low platform that can drop down to water level or indeed down into the water. It'll handle a 500 kilo tender, so plenty of opportunity for you to spec a Williams 360 or perhaps even a 395. And if when you come to anchor, you want to pop that tender in the water, tie it around the side and lift that section back up to cockpit level, where you can open that glass balustrade and use that platform as an extension to the cockpit itself. Great little diving platform, really opens up the space as a kind of beach club at the back end of this boat. You can see beneath that platform, there's a lovely big storage locker, goes right under the cockpit deck. In order to access that, you do of course have to drop that platform down to water level, get in that way. That's easily enough done. But if I step on board at this starboard platform and head up the steps to the cockpit itself, you'll see there's an additional access point, a hatch in the deck here, to take you down into that same space. And if that platform is for your tender, well, there's lots of space inside this locker for all your toys. Your stand-up paddle boards and inflatables, your lines and fenders, your bits and bobs. Lots of space in there, runs right the way through. But arguably of more interest to most people will be the sheer scale of this aft deck. As I say, a beam of 29 feet. You really feel that here, particularly as Prestige has elected to use standalone furniture, freestanding furniture, so you can spec this in pretty much whatever way you fancy. What we've gone for here is very low-level lounge seats, so it's quite a casual setup. Plenty of space for additional freestanding furniture if you want it. As you can see, there's a single level deck runs right through into the main saloon. And we'll have a look at that in a minute, because that's quite an impressive part of this boat, as you'd expect. Before we get there though, it's worth talking about the steps to the Flybridge. Now that might sound like a fairly mundane topic, but on the previous M8, we had steps to the Flybridge from the aft cockpit. We also had steps to the Flybridge internally on the starboard side of the saloon, where they've eradicated those, which means more space in the saloon. And it also means more space up on the Flybridge, and you'll see the impact of that when we get up there. But before we get there, no space, in fact, is wasted here. If I open this, beneath those Flybridge steps, you'll see we've got a nice little ice maker. And if I nip round to the other side, you'll see we've got an additional bit of storage in here. A little work surface, should you want it, and a third helm built into the back of the superstructure just there. I say a third helm, just a joystick and a little Garmin unit up top. So 3 helms on this boat. That, of course, is optional. While we're in the cockpit, it's also worth talking about the engine choice, because that differs from the previous M8 as well. What we have on this boat, and the only option, in fact, is a pair of MAN i6 730s. And the engine bays are pretty big, so there's plenty of checker plate around those engines to access all the bits you need. There's plenty more space for your air conditioning unit, for a generator or a couple of generators, and also for the silent boating package, a big lithium-ion battery bank, so you can stay silent at anchor. Now, we're going to see the foredeck in a second. We're going to see the saloon too, because that's particularly lovely. But before we do any of that, we'll nip straight up these steps and take a look at the Flybridge. Because as I say, that differs from the M8 as well, the original M8. When you step up here, you look at it and you think, well, actually, surely that's bigger. But no, it was always a full beam fly, which makes it pretty enormous. But of course, the fact we no longer have those internal Flybridge steps arriving on the starboard side of this Flybridge means that we've got loads of space for more productive things. So starting at the back end, we've got a nice big space. Once again, like the cockpit down below, for freestanding furniture. Out with the shaded area of that hard top, so you can sit in the sun, relax and sunbathe. And as I say, you can pick what you like, because freestanding furniture means it's as configurable as you want it to be. Over on the port side further forward, we've got a nice big dining unit, big enough, I'd say, for 8, 9, maybe even 10 people. And this is where we really benefit from the absence of that starboard stairwell. A huge galley, L-shaped, with space for some bar stools inboard of that, which is a very attractive place to sit. And this feels strikingly modern to me, because increasingly on premium powerboats, you see the galley operating as the genuine social hub of proceedings. That's exactly how this feels. You can access it on all sides, and when you're standing here at this L-shaped unit, looking out, you feel like everything revolves around you. And it pretty much does. It's a lovely feeling. We've got an optional barbecue aft. We've got a sink here. We've got that bar surface as well, plus an extra bit of worktop. We've got a lovely big unit under here. If I can lift that up, good strong rams. Here's a grill. There's space for a second one there as well. And plenty of space underneath for all the refrigeration, ice makers, fridges that you need. If I move around the front of this galley, and I call it a galley because it's very much more that than it is a wet bar, we find ourselves at the helm position, dead in the centre of the deck. There's plenty to be said about that, not least the scale of those plotters and the way that these two chairs interact with the rest of the space. But we'll ignore that for now, because we'll have a closer look when we take it out for a drive. And we'll head back down these steps and continue our tour of the external decks forward to that bow space, because I'm a big fan of that. We'll use the starboard side deck. As you can see, we get kind of a trawler style overhang from that Flybridge. Keeps you nice and sheltered, nice and safe. Lovely wide decks too. 3, 4 steps up to the bow area. And here we have essentially 2 parts. So a nice big central sunbed region with some lifting backrests in the centre there. If you do lift those, you'll find that your view from that lower helm, an optional lower helm in fairness, is very much obscured. But this is easily big enough for 4 people in that central section, another couple on either side. And further ahead of that, because this is the M8, so a 65-foot boat with a 29-foot beam, there's plenty of space for us to sink that deck at the forepeak and generate a really lovely, safe, intimate lounge for perhaps 10 or even 12 people. Little optional tables there. I'd favour bigger ones than that, but this is an absolutely lovely section of the boat. Arguably the best spot for sitting with a drink on the entire platform. And here on either side, we've got additional hatches, and they lead you down to the crew cabins. It's by no means a difficult boat to drive, and not a difficult boat to park either, with those engines spaced wide apart and a joystick. It's a very simple boat to manoeuvre. But this is a particularly big boat, so if you've just paid 7 million quid for it, you're not likely to want to do all the cleaning and maintenance it requires, and that's why it comes as standard with a single ensuite crew cabin to port and the same to starboard. And you can ramp that up again by adding a second bed to each to accommodate 4 crew members, 1 bed transverse, 1 fore and aft. And it's a bit tight and a bit pokey. There's only a small window for natural light in each, so they're not the best crew cabins in the world. But certainly in terms of capacity, you've got to say that's pretty hard-working stuff from the Prestige designers. Now let's head aft, back down the port side deck. And as we do so, let's just notice this door on the port side. This is particularly handy, not just for access to this port side deck, and not just for access to that rather cleverly positioned port side gate, but also for this. If I open this up, you'll see that this, in fact, is the day heads. We do have nice wide side decks, as I say, but there's still lots and lots of beam available in here. Freestanding furniture, once again, a big L-shaped seating unit on the port side, plenty of cabinetry as well. There's the bulkheads for that day heads we just took a look at. And on the starboard side, a freestanding dining station, a dining table. This is where the old staircase up to the fly would have been. So now, in the absence of that, you can have two-part sliding doors behind this dining station, so you can open up that entire starboard side, get some lovely fresh air and views in there. So that's another positive benefit of that change from Prestige. And this is interesting too, actually. I got a couple of glass partitions here. They sort of suggest separation from the forward zone without actually blanking things off or blocking your light. And in the future, apparently, we will have that partition extending right the way across. So you can actually shut off the saloon into two parts. Again, without obstructing the light. But if you've got crew, and as you can see, we've got the galley and the lower helm forward, then that could make a good deal of sense. Let's head forward now, past the starboard staircase to that hole, past the port staircase to that hole. You see we've got a forward staircase to the owner's hole that spans that entire space, so that's going to be something to see. But in the meantime, I'm pretty impressed with this already. We've got L-shaped settee with a little table on the port side, and that operates as good companion seating for the skipper down here. We'll talk about this helm again as we get underway, because it's particularly interesting. What we'll move on to now is the galley though, and this is larger, partly because of the repositioning of that helm over the previous M8. This is an enormous station, even bigger than the one up on the Flybridge. Again, it's a wraparound kind of design, so you feel like the hub of proceedings here. And there's a bar again with room down there for 2 stalls. I'm sure you could fit 3 should you choose to. And there's all kinds of storage capacity in here for any number of fridges and ice makers you want. The twin sink, plenty more storage in this section as well. Nice extractor fan built into your induction hob, an oven down below, a huge fridge freezer there as well. And I'm impressed with that. I think that's exactly where you'd want your galley to be. But there are options, and those options all start with the 2 hulls. While we always have that full beam owner's cabin forward, we have the starboard hull, which is split into 2 cabins. We have the port hull, which again is split into 2 ensuite cabins, but you can change that up. You can have a VIP cabin that occupies the entire port hull. You can have a VIP cabin that occupies the entire starboard hull if you want, or you can have a cabin forward. You can relocate the galley to the lower aft section of that starboard hull, and you can use this for additional seating. And that could, again, if you have crew, make some good sense just to keep things nice and discreet. But for my money, this is absolutely the best solution in terms of galley placement. Rather than just talking about the cabins though, let's head down to port first and have a look at that. Very simplistic, a stairwell lands in the centre. And if we look aft, we've got a double cabin. And because as a power cat, we have wider holes than you tend to expect of a sailing cat, we've got room for a nice big double bed that faces out, positioned transverse, and it faces out through a lovely big hull window. So that's nicely done. And further aft, this makes sense too. We have a transverse bathroom, an ensuite bathroom. And it makes sense because it divides the sleeping zone off from the engine room, which is behind that bulkhead. If we spin around again and head forward, you'll see that we've got an additional double here, pretty much symmetrical, again facing outboard, storage unit down below. And this incidentally is real leather. It feels like a real premium boat, this. And again, we have a transverse bathroom forward with a separate shower compartment. It's a really good size, that. No rain shower, but in all other regards, it's very neatly done indeed. And if we choose to use this hull as a VIP cabin, then we have the bathroom forward. This is your living area. This is the sleeping zone, and this becomes a walk-in wardrobe. So even then, you still separate your living space and your sleeping space from the noise and fuss of the engine room further aft. Now we'll just head straight up and over to the starboard side. We won't dwell for long because, as I say, they're virtually symmetrical, but there is one difference on this boat that's worth a quick look, and that is the forward of the 2 cabins, which is rigged slightly differently. for your kids with some staggered bunks. Arguably big enough for 3 people rather than just the 2. But either way, in terms of the sheer flexibility of these potential deck layouts, it's a real treat both for the private owner and potentially, I would say, for the charter operator. Now there's plenty of space beneath this section of the deck for a washer dryer and a big fridge and plenty of baggage for extended cruises. But what we want to do before we head out for a drive of this boat is pop down to the all-important bow cabin. As I say, full beam. Though it tapers a touch up here, you still get the bulk of that 29 feet to play with. You really feel that when you walk in here. As elsewhere on this boat, if I spin the camera around, you'll see that headroom is excellent. I reckon we got the best part of what, 6'8", 6'10" there. And if we walk over to the starboard side, where you'll see the depth and length of the windows is excellent. Plenty of space all around this big 4.5 double bed. Plenty of premium detailing as elsewhere on this boat. Lots of storage, more of this stitched leather. More storage outboard. If we move over towards the port side, we've got a desk unit in the centre there. A nice big chaise longue next to the bed. Plenty more deck space here, the kind of deck space you don't necessarily expect. And here is the more functional area of the owner's cabin, over on that port side. Again, light flooding directly through, and even if you cordon it off with these doors, the fact that they're made of glass means you continue to get that light. The original M8, and in fact the M7 and M48 do a great job in terms of their light management, and this is no exception. So if we walk in here, again, lots of lovely headroom. We've got plenty of hanging space on both sides for him and her. And over by this window, his and her sinks again. And as on previous models, well, we've got split facilities. So if I push this open, you'll see we've got a lovely spa-style shower room with a seat and a couple of rain showers, as you can see. And if I look forward, undo the little clip until we go out to sea and pull that open, well, there are your toilet facilities, nicely tucked away behind one door, behind 2 doors, so you don't have to feel in any way exposed if your partner is in bed and you need to go to the toilet in the middle of the night. What I also like, again, is to do with the light, is the fact that we've got these frosted glass doors. So whatever you're doing, wherever you are in this owner's bow cabin, the management of light and space feels absolutely delightful. Now clearly this is a very interesting helm station. More interesting, I would say, than the original M8, which located that helm station, the optional helm station, over here in a kind of cabinet which minimised the size of the galley and kind of got in the way a little bit. But they shifted it over to port. You still don't get it as standard. As standard, you get an extension to that companion seating with a little settee just extending inboard here. But there are options in terms of the helm you get. You can start with that old school kind of cabinet style thing where all the systems are tucked inside a cabinet out of sight until you need them. Or you can upgrade that with this, a proper helm station with a pair of 17-inch plotters and your throttles and your joystick, your switchgear, your wheel and a leaning post. And you can go again, upgrade that with a proper leather skipper's chair. So it's a major upgrade in that regard. And I've got to say, as long as you've got the backrests for the sunbed on that foredeck folded down, visibility is pretty good too. And yeah, you've got individual screen panels, because of course we've got a big weighty Flybridge up top, and that means you get a bit of a brow too, but because we've got quite lofty headroom, it feels quite open. And actually it's not just about the visibility either. We've got really good access to that port side deck through that door that enables you to get to the day heads as well. And because we've sacrificed the Flybridge steps on the starboard side of this saloon, we've also got the option of a door out onto the starboard side deck. So it's very practical in that degree. Now, what we have here, as I've mentioned, is a new form of engine for this M8 Evo. We've got MAN i6 730s. Now that's quite a big block engine, 12.4 litres. But that same block is used for 850 horsepower units, so it's very much unstressed, quite low revving. So it's a really refined boat, and we'll see that when we put the throttles down and get up to speed a little bit. Now, obviously things are flat. They're flat in a lateral sense, they're flat in terms of pitch. There's no bow out attitude. I can see all round still, even though we're cruising along at what, 8 knots. And the efficiency really is good at these speeds. At 6 knots, we're getting 2 litres per mile. Now, we got 3,700 litres of fuel capacity, which is greater than the old M8. So saving 20% in reserve, 3,000 litres to play with. So a 1,500 mile range at 6 knots. Increase that to 8 knots, that's 4 litres per mile. 10 knots, 5 litres per mile. So you've got a 600 mile range. And right enough, at the very top end, it extends to around about 14 litres per mile. So you cut your range right down to 215 miles. But this is, without question, a very long-legged cruiser. Before we go any further, though, I just want to point out, and this is a bugbear of mine as a tea drinker, there's nowhere to stick my cup of tea. On a monohull, that's fairly critical, but as you can see here, because we're so stable, we're so flat, I can just pop my bottle of water, I guess my cup of tea on the surface here and relax, safe in the knowledge it's unlikely to spill unless we really misbehave. But let's misbehave now, increase those revs right up towards the top end. Tiny bit of bow lift. Now I've got to say it is refined. At that 10 knot cruising speed we were seeing about 57 decibels, so easy just for you to stand there and have a chat with the guys on the companion seating. Right at the top end, around about 21 knots, that increases to about 65, 66 decibels, but really if you want to go for an extended cruise, that's about as refined and comfortable as it gets. We're pretty much at the top end now, so we'll swing her through a turn. We'll go to port first. As I say, visibility is pretty good, so we don't have to worry about failing to spot a boat on the inside of the arc. And as you'd expect, very flat, maybe a tiny bit of lean out, a little bit of outward heel as you turn hard. We'll do the same to starboard. And it's really a little bit indecent of me to drive the boat like this. It's not what it's for. As you perfectly well know, it's about relaxed, comfortable, soft riding cruises at sensible speeds with all this space to enjoy. More to the point, it's really not about helming this boat from down here on the optional Maydeck helm at all. It's actually about getting up top onto that huge full beam Flybridge and seeing how it feels up there. Well, here we are at the upper helm, and I've got to say I quite like it. I like a lot of things about it actually. For a start, it's slap bang in the centre of the deck. I like that. I like the fact that we've got a bit of companion seating on the port side there. And I like the fact that we've got massive MFDs. Standard, as I say, is a pair of 17 inches. What we have up here is a pair of 22-inch MFDs. Really fill the dash space. It's a great use of the space available to us. Really huge, love that. I like the fact that we get the optional second helm seat as well, the co-pilot seat to the side of us there, with a bit of room to move in and out between the two. But let's just adjust the seat a touch, bring us closer to that wheel. We got it on single lever. We'll get straight up and running. We're finally starting to get a few ripples to play with here. So I'll see if I can cause that slightly dipping bridge deck to impact with a couple of those, see if we can get some spray over the bow, soak all the cushions, maybe soak ourselves too up here on the Flybridge. Because of course when you dip that bridge deck to generate all that space for that lovely big full beam bow cabin for the owner, well inevitably your mouldings get that bit closer to the sea surface. We've only got 1 or 2 footers here, but if I spin around, I reckon I can chase our own wake, see if we can get some naughtiness to happen there. As we turn, of course, on a monohull, you'd expect, being up on the Flybridge, that bit further from the centre of heel to really feel that, but it's just turned so flat you really don't notice much at all. We'll carry on turning. It's a pretty good, sharp angular turn as well. Doesn't take a lot of space at all. In that regard, it's quite agile actually. And there we go. Well, that's a good 3 foot, I would say, maybe 4 foot. We'll head straight through our own wake and see what happens there. Lots of lovely pace. 15 knots. Here we go. Lovely and soft riding. Didn't even feel a single shudder as the bridge deck makes contact with the sea surface. No spray at all. No wetness on that foredeck, let alone up here. So actually it does appear to be a very practical kind of boat for most sea conditions. In terms of enjoying the drive, well, it's always the case with these big power cats with all this deck space. This boat weighs in excess of 50 tons. It's got a 29-foot beam. It's a huge piece of machinery, real estate they call it, and it really does kind of feel that way. Lots of deck space, lots of sociable seating areas, but absolutely not a driving machine, and it is never likely to be. This is more about taking you in comfort and refinement from one destination to the next, so you can enjoy your cruise without necessarily feeling like you've actually been at sea. It's a strange idea, but increasingly it's quite a popular one. You would have to say then that this is a really very good effort indeed from Prestige. I know it's not a thrill ride to drive, and it was never going to be. That's not the kind of boat it is. What it is safe and comfy and refined and competent. And that's absolutely all it needs to achieve, because as you can see, the way the decks are arranged provide a great deal more than you would expect of a boat of just 65 feet in length. And that, of course, is the critical point. Because even though this is a 65-foot boat with its 29-foot beam, with its ground-up power cat design, with lots of headroom and lots of volume, and more to the point, lots of intelligence and flexibility in the way those spaces are used, it undoubtedly provides the space and volume and flexibility of an 80 to 90 footer. And that is exactly why Prestige calls it the M8. It's perfectly reasonable to ask the question then, well, does it cost the same as a 65 footer, which is essentially what it is, or does it cost the same as the 85 footer with which it shares so many traits in terms of its volume and flexibility? And the answer, of course, is somewhere in between. This boat goes from as little as 4.8 million euros plus tax, but if you spec it up as the test boat is, you're closer to 5.5 million plus tax. So you're looking at around about 7 million euros. Whether that's good value or not depends on how you want to use your boat, but if you're one of these very modern boaters who enjoys the natural traits of a power cat and wants the space and the sociability and the volume and the flexibility and doesn't mind sacrificing some of that dynamism and sexiness that we get from traditional monohulls, then the flagship M8 Evo from Prestige is absolutely a boat you need to come and take a look at. Now, I know perfectly well that this boat, and in fact the very concept of a large luxury power cat, tends to cause plenty of heated debate. So whichever side of the fence you fall on, have your say and leave your comment in the section below. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and if you want to see more videos like this in the future, then make sure you subscribe to the Motorboat and Yachting channel.